find your lane and just go with it and stay. Like, we can't be all things to all people. So there's always a need for an expert. I always tell kids now who say, I want to be on TV. What should I do? Major in the thing you want to talk about.
This is Unknown to Known, an on-cam ready presentation. I'm Jamie Maglietta. If you love what we're offering here on YouTube or on your podcasting platform of choice, I hope you'll give us a follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today's guest started as an accountant at Ernst & Young. Then she became one of the most recognized faces on Fox Business Network. She walked away from television on purpose, becoming a financial advisor and writing a book. She also launched a podcast and built a practice specifically devoted to helping women take control of their financial lives. She has never stopped reinventing herself, and every single time she's shown up more focused, more purposeful, and more powerful than before. As someone who's known Tracy a very long time, I have to say she's also very kind, open, and a giving person. So if you're someone who is thinking about going into financial services and you're looking for a mentor, I'd reach out to her on LinkedIn. She's also out with a book, Deduct Everything. And if that title doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how she thinks, this conversation will. I'm so glad Tracy Byrnes could join us today on Unknown to Known. See, in 2015, she left broadcasting. And what she did next is exactly the kind of story I created this show to tell. We're all on this journey of unknown to known, trying to become more known in different areas. And as Vice President of Women and Investing at Lebenthal Global Advisors, she's focused specifically on helping women navigate major life transitions, divorce, widowhood, career change, reinvention. She's on a new mission. And that mission, she wants to become known. And this book is a great step. She's also showing up on television as a contributor. She may not be behind the anchor desk, but she's still pouring value into her audience, living by the framework I created, Known. If you want more information on the Known framework, reach out. I give talks on it. Now let's get to our conversation with Tracy Byrnes. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to these days and where you've been in your career.
I am currently the Vice President of Women and Investing at Lebenthal Global Advisors. So basically, I am a financial advisor, hyper focused on women. I have my certified divorce financial analyst certification. So I am even more focused on divorced women. It's a thing. And I don't think that women, especially divorced women, get enough financial help along the way.
Mhm.
At 50, I'm 55. At 55, I always say my age and up. So many women have stayed home. They don't know. They take care of everything but finances. And so there's a huge gap out there that I am actually thrilled to try to be a small part of helping fill. But as you know, I was at FBN for 10 years. Prior to that, I was an accountant. I worked for Ernst & Young. I was a financial journalist. I did 10 years in print, 10 years in front of the camera, and tripped and fell, like I say, and got up and found myself on FBN. It was never in the cards for me. As a matter of fact, true story, they called me to come on. I was pregnant with my third at the time. I was like, my eyeballs are swollen. I'm so fat right now. There is no shot I'm coming on TV. And they made me feel bad about it. This is a mistake. This could be really good for your career. I was like, well, then it's on me. My ankles were like the size of tree trunks. There's no shot I was walking onto a TV set. And sure enough, they called me after I had my daughter. And that's how I started going
Wow.
on a regular basis. Yeah. But from there, I found, especially being in media, you meet all these rock star women. And back then, we're talking like 2010 to
Mhm.
2015, there weren't a lot of female advisors out there. And all these women were like, we have money. We don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
And so I knew there was a void, and and so that's what started my journey of getting into this business.
And you have such a great way of communicating what's happening in the financial world to a variety of audiences, but I love that you're focusing on women. I think that that is such I don't know, it's like great to your character because I always thought of you as someone who was very relatable, easy to talk
Mm.
to. As a woman in media, it's not always easy to find women that you can turn
No.
to and have a joke with or catch up with. And not feel like, "Ooh, there's some tension here." You're always a very giving person, so I will say that. You are
Thank you.
one of those people that inspire many women in media, and I'm glad you're now inspiring women in the financial space too.
You know what? It used to be, and it still is, but it's getting better. Like this whole like bro club, like
Yeah.
they spoke in tongue, they use a lot of acronyms,
Mhm.
and it's unnecessary. It's just unnecessary, and it's all purpose. It was purposeful to keep
Mhm.
us out of it. It's not necessary. Not to mention, we control more than 50% of the households these days. The transfer of wealth over the next 10 years from men to women is in the trillions of dollars. Like we
Mhm.
have no choice but to figure this stuff out now. So
Mhm.
it's times of the essence, quite frankly.
Yeah. And, before we were talking about how you started your career and you were saying that you fell into FBN. And I
Yeah.
think that's a point a lot of people and professionals listening need to realize if they're in the financial space and they see individuals on social media becoming like the go to expert in finance, or they're watching Fox Business Network and they see these guests on TV and they're thinking, I could do that. I want to do that. Now's the time. There's so many ways that you can become that go to expert.
Hmm.
And the fact that you were initially the guest over and over being called, what do you think helped you stand out before you landed in as a paid contributor, as a paid utility player at Fox Business Network?
That's actually such a great question. So, and I think it's was being relatable.
Yeah.
I always talked about being a single mother. Everything to me in the economy comes back to the kitchen table. And as a single mother raising these three kids, like I remember one time being on air complaining about how my son's baseball dues were so damn expensive. Like, why? It's baseball for seven
Yeah.
year olds, for God's sake. And when I got hired, I remember, being escorted into Roger Ailes' office to meet him. And what he said to me was, be that single mother with three kids on TV always. Don't ever not be her because there's so many of you out there. And I thought that was a credit to Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Roger was a
Completely.
Broadway producer at one point, right? He did know how to pick his cast of characters. And he insisted I stay in that lane. And for me, it just made it easier for me. I didn't have to be anyone but myself. And
Hmm.
so certain things hit me differently than the guy that has a lot of money. Like he could care
Yeah.
less that baseball dues went up, but I cared and it meant a lot. And it, it meant a lot to the viewer. I think that authenticity shows through.
I'm trying to remember the show. Was it a show with Chris Cotter that
Oh
you
my
were on at
God,
one point? Remember
Varney.
him? Barney,
Oh,
yeah.
Chris. So
I
he's
love
like my
that
birthday
show.
buddy. I text him once a year. His birthday's like 6 days after mine.
Mhm.
He actually lives near you, I think now. He's
Well,
down there.
he used to talk about how his family lived down here. I don't know if he
Right.
ever came down.
I think
That'd
he
be
did
that'd be funny
actually.
bumping into
I know.
Chris.
Yeah, but
But
he's another one. I thought he was as real as the day was long.
But he was. I was
Yeah.
good friends with him. I thought he was. He was just such an authentic person,
Yeah.
but he always found a way to bring it back to like what he liked, sports or
Right.
whatever he found his interest in. So you're right in the cast of characters. That was a great show too. And I think, it's also all about talking to your audience, right? Like you
Hmm.
were able to identify who your listener needed to be so you could relate. And there's people that say, you serve the person you once were best. And sometimes making that your avatar, like the person you talk to in your social media feed, in your newsletter, in your LinkedIn posts, can really help you start to craft out that niche for yourself. It sounds like
Hmm.
because you were that single mom at the time and using your own lived experiences, that you were able to essentially create a niche for yourself.
I guess in some way I created a character, right? Yes,
Yeah.
it was a niche, and I think that's how I ended up here as well. I remember sitting
Mhm.
across from a friend. She pushed two pieces of paper in front of me, and she said she had no idea what it was. It was a bank account in Costa Rica that her now ex-husband was funneling
Mm.
money out there.
Oh my goodness.
And to your earlier point, she's the person I think about every time I say something now. I think about her. Does she understand what I'm saying? Because she understood nothing back then. I'm very proud to say that she has come a very long way. She's a client, and we gone through this whole education process together, and it's phenomenal, and she feels so empowered. But I think about that woman. What
Mhm.
how do I talk to her? How do I get her out of that, nonsensical relationships that she was in and make
Mhm.
her feel empowered about money? But I
Yeah.
think that there's room for that in so many different ways. Like, to your point, if you can do baseball analogies all day long, you'll have probably a huge fan base because there's enough baseball players out there. So
Yeah.
I think pick your lane, like you're saying.
And also to the point, I had on Danny Savalos. He's a legal analyst at CNN, NBC. He's all over. And he was saying in the beginning, you do a lot of free work.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that many people assume that when they see individuals like yourself or me if I was a guest on TV that they believe we're paid. But we're not paid until like we've proven a need. So tell individuals, that are listening and hoping that they can one day become a paid contributor, what that process could look like to them.
It's a minute, right? And if you're
Yeah.
willing to give it the time, I always said, and I tell my kids to this day, half the time I got the gig was because I showed up and
Mm,
I was consistent. I remember, so in the very beginning, Gary Schreier, one of our longtime producers, he and I knew each other from my previous life at thestreet.com. He put me on for the very first time with Neil Cavuto. Neil and I would sit on set because everyone else was remote. And during
mhm.
commercial breaks, got to know each other so well. And
Yeah.
he had a sister who was divorcing, going through the same thing. So we had this like
Mm,
simpatico thing going. But I can't tell you how many times they would pick me up for this Friday morning taping and somebody remote didn't show and somebody else didn't show. And I was always there, Jamie. I was
mhm.
always there. 9 times out of 10, I was probably making stuff up because now we had to kill time. I love when they said that we're going to have to kill some time. But I showed up, and
Mhm.
I think that alone made a difference as to why I had consistency in the beginning, but probably 18 months, I didn't see a red cent.
Yeah, and you kept showing up.
Hmm.
And, it's an interesting point you make about being there. Do you remember
Yeah.
when f I mean, I felt like when we were there, it was very much an entrepreneurial
Oh my God.
environment at Fox.
Oh
We
my
had
God.
FBN launching, we had foxnews.com live. But did you do much on the foxnews.com live? Do you remember that? It was like
Of
24
course.
se okay.
Of course.
So often I would get the call, "Can you just come up to set and sit there? Rick Leventhal's alone." And I'd walk up and be like, "What are we talking about?" And he'd be like, "I don't know." One time, Tracy, I kid you not, we sang. Rick was like, "So, what are we what are we do?" Foxnews.com live, man, that was the best.
The
But
best.
the best.
The best. And to this day, I take full credit for, and if they like hear this, they know I say this all the time. Mike Santoli used to come on as a guest on foxnews.com live. He's a big time anchor on CNBC now. Kelly, it's not Adams, Kelly something is also an anchor on CNBC. She was with us. She would come on the live. Shauna Smith went on to
Mhm,
work at Yahoo Finance. She came on all the time on the live. And you want to hear something funny? When I got divorced, I made a very good friend of mine told me to make a bucket list. He's like,
mhm,
God just gave you a blank slate. What are you going to do? Best advice I ever got, by the way.
mm.
And I made a list. And one of the things I wanted to learn about was wine. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if I chronicled my wine experience? And do you know the live? I guess they needed to fill space. Jamie said, you could do a show. And they, so I had a once a week Wine Wednesday show.
Oh my gosh,
And
when was this? I don't
I swear to
remember.
God, it was the best. And
Oh, that must have been so fun.
so fun. And the dirty little secret about the whole thing is that I think when whoever was booking reached out to all these wineries
Yeah.
and all these fabulous people, saw was Fox News. Really think they thought they were coming on to be on the channel,
Yeah.
only to find out they were on this
This live
website,
stream that
and
we
they were
were
like on the bottom third of the page that no one ever saw. And
Mhm.
so, but I met so many people in the wine world that I am still friends with to
Oh,
this
that's
day.
so fun.
It's
Oh
so
my
cool.
gosh, remember there was like a fan club that
Of
would watch
course.
the stream?
Of course. Some of them
See,
not
it
so
was
normal.
such a innovative time, right? It's the beginning of it all here.
It was so fun. It
It
was so
was a good
and we
time.
hustled at FBN. All we wanted to do was beat CNBC. Like, we
Yeah.
just hustled. It was really fun.
But the
It was fun.
shows were really nicely done,
Yeah.
beautiful studios, great sets.
Yeah.
And so you got to this point in your career there that you decided you were going to go in a new direction. So you left FBM, what was it, around 2015?
2015.
And so what did you do after that? Where did you take your journey after becoming known within this business space at FBN? What did you do with that?
It was so, as a single mom, there could not be a worse work schedule than
Mhm.
TV anchor,
Yeah.
right? Because you either want to be on first thing in the morning when everybody
Mhm.
wakes up, that's 6 a.m., ready to go, crazy, or
Yeah.
prime time, that's 6 p.m., even crazier because now you're missing dinner, homework, all the things. Like, and my
Mhm.
kids were peanuts. So it just wasn't working. We walked away amicably. Took a minute to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up doing some video work, just all the, side hustle stuff
Yeah.
until I realized, and I started interviewing. I started this series for the street.com, Jim Cramer's street.com, about rock star women on Wall Street. And the one thing that they all had in common was that they had a ton of money and they had no one to talk to about it. Because,
Mm.
with all due respect to the fabulous old white men in our lives,
Mhm.
women didn't want to talk to them back then. And so I realized there was a niche. I ended up interviewing one of the big financial advisors at UBS. She thought it was a great idea for me to explore. And so I explored. I went and marched myself into all the firms. I had offers
Mm.
from all the firms and decided to go with UBS because at the time they were one of the only firms hyper focused on women. Now they all are.
Yeah.
But it was early in the game. And so I knew there was a need, and it was like the perfect balance for me of talking about the markets and finance, not having to spend an hour a day in hair and makeup anymore, like, and having a lot more flexibility. The
Uh-huh.
beauty of my career now is I sort of could make my own schedule,
Yeah.
whereas you can't do that when you're on TV.
No.
You just can't.
No, but those 1-hour makeup sessions, I would sometimes pop in and watch while people were getting their makeup done, and I learned the best eye
Oh,
techniques, like, now you look great on camera no matter what. You had the Fox people teaching you,
they
you know?
were the best. And
Mhm.
actually, I will have to say I never gave them an hour. An hour is gracious. And they were always angry at me because I would come barreling in with 30 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Um, but they were my favorite people, hair and makeup.
And that brings up a point that a lot of people ask me about. It's like, how do you become on camera ready? And a lot of times when you are on television, you are having hair and makeup. You're
I
also
know.
having designers essentially say, here are the outfits you can pick from. I don't
Yeah.
know if did you have the closet of
We had
clothes?
wardrobe. Yep.
Yeah, wardrobe. And so you're not really having to think much. Weigh
No.
in here, but you kind
No.
of know what you can wear.
Yes, 100%. So
Mhm.
yes, we had wardrobe. I came in every day in jeans and a t-shirt and a leather jacket because I'm from Jersey, and would go hair, makeup, go upstairs, pick one of the however many dresses they told me I had an option from. I did not sit on set with another woman, so it almost didn't matter at the time.
Yeah.
But if a woman ever filled in, there was all the coordination. You can't wear the same color, all that kind of
Mhm.
nonsense. So yes, it was orchestrated, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think they care a lot more. I always notice that the woman matches the man's tie.
I've noticed
There's
that too.
Right? There's a lot more
Especially
of
on
that.
Fox and Friends in the morning.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
wasn't that
they
kind of
coordinate.
yeah,
And I
and I
tell
think it looks
people
nice.
that, like, you need to have coordination. I'll guide professionals and say, it's not a bad idea to know what your colors are.
Right. I have been on now more recently even as
Mhm.
guests on different networks where they'll tell me what the female anchor's wearing. So don't wear that color, basically.
I love that.
Right. She's wearing navy today, or royal blue, just so you know.
Just
Don't
so
wear
you know. What I've even noticed too is, like, if I see a show is I'm gonna hold up your book so people can see the colors. We'll
Ah,
talk about your book, but
thank you.
if, like,
It's
say the
loud.
branding of the show is
It's
yellow
loud.
and red, I may say wear blue or,
Right.
try to complement your book, but also complement maybe the colors of the set if those are the colors. Like, I always try to make it so it goes well together.
Yeah, but I think that's important because you
Mhm.
need the visual there as well. Like that's something that
Mhm.
we instinctively think about, right? Like
Yeah.
I have this painting behind me. I'm never going to wear like a wacko color that
Mhm.
conflicts with it.
Or
Um,
multicolor.
or multicolor. Well, but never. I
No.
don't even think we were allowed.
If we wore plaids, I mean, anybody wore a plaid, geez, it'd be
Or
like,
black.
"Yeah,
Back
you're
then, you
out."
couldn't wear black.
No
There
black.
was no black back then either.
No. But you know
No.
what? I think black and white are making, I don't know if it's a trend, but they're making a resurgence on
Yes.
television, I think because of the lighting.
I
It's real.
totally agree with you.
Yeah.
The lighting probably could handle it now. It couldn't back then.
No,
It couldn't.
definitely.
The white, it was just, it looked like you were in a disco, right? It bounced right
Mhm.
off of you. And black, I guess you look drowned out. Now I agree
Yeah.
with you. I see it more and more. It must be because the lighting can manage it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. That's what, at least what I go with. I tell people here that. Um, it's the lighting. But, you do wanna avoid black regardless.
Mhm.
I think people, who is it, I can't remember her name on MS Now because it was MSNBC. Rachel Maddow always wore black on the desk. I think some people just make it a statement piece and it works, but yeah, you don't wanna wear black, you wanna have a complementary color. You always wanna think about what your flattering solid colors are. But so before we talk about your book and I wanna get into some tips, I would love if you have any suggestions for people who, they wanna be seen by the media. They wanna become known like you were at FBN or how you are now at seen as an expert guest. How can they position themselves? Do you recommend that they write a newsletter, show up on social? Like, how would you guide them?
I think, like we were saying earlier, find your lane and just go with it and stay. Like we can't be all things to all people, so there's always a need for an expert. I always tell kids now who say, "I want to be on TV. What should I do?"
Mhm.
Major in the thing you want to talk about. If you're an expert, I happen to
Yep.
be an economics major with an MBA in accounting, so I was all about the numbers. So in the beginning, I actually was hired to do earnings reports because I was one of the only nerds in the building that actually would read them, like couldn't wait to read them, believe it
Mhm.
or not. But so find your thing, become an expert in it. And then I would also say, like, no need to pretend to be anything you're not. Like, let's just call it out because if not, someone else will. So don't pretend. Don't pretend you know more than you do. Don't speak above people or use big stupid words or
Mm.
acronyms. Keep them out of like just no more acronyms. And I think the authenticity is really what people look for.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I would say maybe start writing too. Nowadays, and I don't know how AI is going to play into the journalism world, but like,
Mhm.
that's how I originally got picked up at Fox too. Um,
Bylines.
Bylines. I was writing a column for the New York Post, a Sunday column for the New York Post. My very first phone call was, "We read your column in the New York Post. We'd love to have you come on and talk about it." At the time, I was fat and pregnant. I said no, but that I think is helpful as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree. And I usually will tell people, if you can find a way to write an op-ed, pitch yourself to the news in that way. It's a great launch pad because
Mhm.
then when you're either quoted in an article or you have that byline, you can stand out more to the media. If ever I needed a guest, I was always going to look at who's leaning into the press first before it's
Sure.
like who's that guest expert. It's like who's the one showing up online on Twitter or in an op-ed or being quoted before I went anywhere else. Um, I would think people are still doing that. I'm not out too long, but
No.
that's at least my piece of advice. I do want to make sure that I also ask you about, with this journey from unknown to known, we're always trying to figure out how to become more known.
Mhm.
And you are on that journey for your as well. You came out with a new book. Is
Mhm.
this your first book?
This is my second.
Your second, right?
This
Okay.
is my second. It's funny because in my 10 years as I was print, I'm like a
Mhm.
dinosaur here. I was a print journalist.
Well,
I
so was I.
covered,
So
yeah, we
you're
all
you're in
started
good
there, right?
company.
I know. I covered, believe it or not, taxes because I had my MBA. I covered taxes and accounting. So there were like big accounting deals. Like, I don't know if you remember, Arthur Andersen and Enron fell
Mhm.
apart, and IBM's pension exploded, and there was very few people that understood it enough to first to understood it at all. Second, to take that and write it in layman's terms.
Mhm.
So it worked to my boring degrees worked to my advantage in that I got to write for the Wall Street Journal and I got to write for all these places and meet tons of people. Journalism world is very small. Well, the woman who headed up the publishing division of this book, I worked with when I wrote about taxes. And she reached out because she's like, there's 4 people on the
Small
planet that
world.
actually want to write about taxes. Are you interested? And so at the time I was I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather eat my own toes. But in my brain, got me in the door of the publishing house. I have another book in my brain. I'd love to write something about women and financing and finances and somehow come
Mhm.
up with something that makes it simple, that makes people want to buy a book and not go to AI. I haven't figured it out yet, but I figured at least I'm in the door now. This went well. The process went
Yes.
well. We worked well together. Like I rekindled some relationships. Um, so that was that was my personal rationale for doing it. And the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was confusing as heck, and somebody needed to explain it. So
Really, and this actually speaks to not only entrepreneurs, but people who want to make those investments and take advantage of that. And so I think it's really great, especially for those that are listening to this and want to start getting ahead because you need a
mhm.
strategy if
Yes,
you want to do well at tax season. So this
yes.
is a really good book. I'm glad you wrote it. I
Thank
think it's
you.
wonderful. So
Thank
you've
you.
been podcasting a bit too?
I've been podcasting again, yes, and I'm happy to be back. It's like a slow, I'm dipping my toe back in. As I mentioned, you and I talked off air. I was
Mhm.
trying to do it at my previous job, and compliance was just too much of a hindrance.
Mhm.
So I'm dipping my toe in, trying to see what I could do with this, how I can make it grow, make it really relatable. I just did a podcast on what college kids should know when they get their first job. Like
Mhm.
like topics that we're not talking about. Why aren't we teaching
Yeah.
these kids this stuff in school? It blows my head off. So just
Yeah,
things like that.
there's a lot of great angles you could get at taking that approach.
Right. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff we're not talking about.
But it's
With
also
all
y
due respect to Mesopotamia and like all the
yeah.
ancient history that we teach our kids,
Mhm.
we should be teaching them how to write a check, even though I know they're going away, but there's still a need in some places. And I have 3 college grads, and eh, if somebody knows how to fill one out, I wouldn't put a Vegas odds bet on it. No way.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
know.
I get that. And so you've also been pretty active on LinkedIn. Do you feel like when you're on LinkedIn that helps you stay top of mind for the media, or do you feel like the media reaches out to you still just because you've become more of a known name within your industry?
I think I have to admit that the media reaches out because I've been on both sides,
Yep.
right? So I've sat at the table, I've been behind the camera. They know I get it. Plus now I have actual, like real world stuff to bring to the table. I was a personal finance reporter for a lot of years without actually digging my hands into somebody's personal finances, right?
Mm.
Without doing someone's financial plan. And now, like, it just clearly makes more sense. And I feel
Yeah.
like I can bring more to the table now, especially with divorce and some of the crazy things I've seen and the crazy things people fight over, so I feel like I can add some color. I think that's a lot of it
Yeah.
too.
And unique angles too,
Right.
which is great for those writers who are looking for new approaches, which is because you have that lived experience. Plus, you know both sides and you've been the reporter. You're a well rounded, perfect package, Tracy.
Well, I don't know about that, but
But
but it was a wild, unexpected ride. It
yeah.
was totally never did I think I was going to be in front of a camera. Never.
So, is that what you would tell, your younger self?
Like just
If
be
you were to
open.
talk to your younger self, who's maybe your oldest child's age now, what would you
Mm.
say to Trace?
You got to roll with it. Like you
Yeah.
don't know. I think we tried. I'm sure everybody says this. We try so hard to plan, and they say when you make a plan, God throws it out the window or something. I would have never I really thought I was going to be a partner in an accounting firm. I really did. And there were many times on this. I mean, it was a tumultuous ride. I joke that my financial life looks like an outline of the Grand Tetons because there were great times, then there were rotten times, and then there were, um, you just got to roll with it. But the crazy part to me is that every single thing I did led me to here. So now it all makes sense. At the time, it probably did not to me,
Mhm.
but now it most certainly does. And
Oh,
and the last thing I'll say is because I was on the other side of the camera, the first thing I say to my clients is, "You get fear sells, right? You get these headlines are supposed to freak you the heck out. Like you
mhm.
get that, right? Because if you don't, I'll remind you."
No, that's a
Um,
good point.
but
How do you
that's
I
I
mean, when you are working with your clients, do they ever ask you for on-camera tips, like how to talk on camera, or do they ever get nervous? Like, have you ever had to give advice?
no, it's terrible. Like I'm saying this like just between you and me, James.
Yeah, but the
Um,
whole world's listening.
right.
No.
It's very we're in a very divisive world.
Mm,
So I am very careful about like I don't actually post very often the clips that I have
mhm.
because it might be on a channel that leans one way.
Yep. Mhm.
And I can't insult my clients. I
Yep.
do it because I love it, and and you and I both know it's like riding a bike. If you don't, I'm sorry, it's not like riding a bike. It's a skill. You have to keep
Yes.
honing it, or you lose it. That I will say 100%. So
Correct.
I do these all the time, and I'm
Mhm.
strictly business. I don't talk politics at all.
Me
But
neither.
the
Mhm.
channels s- push almost like force you in a certain direction, at least to the outside world. And so I'm careful about it.
Yeah, you need to be. And to that point, I've done it too, where I've been on alternative viewpoint
Hmm.
channels as a
Hmm.
media analyst.
Uh-huh.
And as long as you're coming to the conversation with your expertise and you're not, feeding into whatever the direction
Right.
goes, it's good. But to your point that you made, being on camera and comfortable on camera, it takes practice and it
Does.
takes reps. And if you aren't on that bike for a while and you jump on, it isn't as easy as picking up that bike. You do
Mm-mm.
need to like warm back into it because I was on a few weeks ago to for a YouTube channel and I felt nervous. I'm like, I have my own show. Why am I? But it's different when you're on someone else's and you don't know where the
Totally.
questions are going to go.
And I think it's healthy to be nervous. I'm always nervous. Like
Mhm.
not nervous, but there's always like that
Yeah.
little because you're right. They can give you 10 questions that the anchor's going to ask and the anchor throws something out of left field at you.
Yeah.
And again, it could be something that leans a little political and you have to like, tap dance it back to the
Mhm.
middle line. So I think again, that is all a skill. One thing I always loved about the producers of Fox was they got in your ear and said, you have 2 minutes. You have 90 seconds. And you knew how long to talk.
Yeah.
I wish more producers did that because
Oh,
sometimes you stop too soon and I'm like, oh, I had more time. Or I'm talking too long and I could see that they're getting antsy. I wish they did a better job at that. Fox was very good at that. I'll give
yeah.
them that.
I will say we got in the guest's ears.
Did. And it was
Mhm.
great. It's helpful.
Yeah.
I
I took that with me, and I have to say I had one person say to me as well, like, "I'm so glad you did that because it really did help me." But you
Mhm.
can't do it to everyone. If they're
No,
not seasoned and you give
it
them a
throws them off.
time, they really can't handle it. So maybe I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I agree. I think giving them time cues would really be helpful. Tracy, I'm really glad we could have this conversation. Remember, you are getting ready for tax season. You have your own business. Whatever you need, get some tax tips from Tracy. Tracy, thank you so much. Thanks for watching this episode of Unknown to Known. If you want more information about Tracy, her book, all she has to offer, be sure to check out the description. I'm also putting in there a free visibility download for you. It is my visibility bundle where you can evaluate your online presence to see how you show up before the media searches your name. There's also an on-cam ready checklist and a QR code to my most valued and used equipment. Lights, mics, you name it, it's in there. So download my visibility bundle today, and thanks so much for getting to this point of the conversation. Another episode is coming up next.